Welcome to the module on the causes of crime. Outline: the causes of crime. In this module, we will be studying about the evolutionary approaches and social, structural and cultural approaches with relating to crime. Learning outcomes: examine the evolutionary approaches to crime and examine the social, structural and cultural approaches to crime. Evolutionary approaches. Humans, like all animals, are the product of evolutionary processes. However, with a few exceptions, evolutionary approaches to understanding crime are largely absent from mainstream criminology textbooks and journals. In contrast, now there is a fairly extensive psychological literature on evolutionary approaches to understanding criminal behavior. Natural and sexual selection. Although the idea of evolution itself has been around for a very long time, there was no clear understanding of how evolution actually worked. Darwin's notion of natural selection provided a simple explanation of evolution and can be captured using three principles. The first one, phenotypic variability; second, differential fitness; third, heritability. Organisms vary in their physical, psychological, and behavioral characteristics that they possess. Each person differs in their height, weight, and size, and these are known as phenotypes. Some of these differences or phenotypes will result in differential fitness. That is, some members of the species will be better able to survive and reproduce due to certain characteristics that they possess. If these differences are heritable, that is, they can be passed on from the parents to the offspring, then favorable characteristics will be more common in the population. Inherited characteristics that have been selected for because of their role of advancing survival and reproductive success are known as biological adaptations. The ability of a chameleon to change its skin color depending upon the local environment is an example of a biological adaptation. Not all adaptations necessarily increase the survival chances of organisms that possess them. Another of Darwin's insight was that such characteristics can evolve through a term called sexual selection. Sexual selection involves the competition that arises over mates and mating. There are two processes: the first one, mate choice, and the second, competition. Any characteristic that increases the chance of being chosen as a mate or that helps to exclude others from mating through competition will be selected. Parental investment theory. Imagine a man and a woman have sexual intercourse with 100 others in a year. A man could potentially have 100 children, whereas a woman could potentially give birth to 1 or 2 children in a year. This is because for a man to become a father, all he requires to give is a teaspoon of sperm, whereas for a woman to become a mother, she requires a fertilized egg, 9 months of pregnancy, and childbirth. Throughout much of evolutionary history, women were also very largely responsible for nursing and caring for infants. In short, because women on average invest significantly more in the offspring than do men, it follows that men, relative to women, can increase their overall reproductive success by assessing more mates. These differences in parental investment have wide-ranging implications for the behavior of humans and other animals. For the purpose of understanding criminal behavior, the most important implication is that men, relative to women, should be more willing to engage in a number of very risky behaviors in the pursuit of mating opportunities. This is because women tend to spend most of the time caring for children, whereas men, on the other hand, do not. However, when we talk about human males, they also often contribute significantly to the welfare of the offspring, typically in the context of long-term intimate relations with women. Men who significantly invest in long-term relationships may be less prone to engage in risky activities. That is, men who are in committed long-term relationships will not engage in risky activities. They may be also very particularly motivated to ensure that the offspring that they are investing in are actually their own. Evolutionary psychology. The application of evolutionary theory to understanding human behavior is widely disputed. Although there are a number of different approaches to applying evolutionary theory to human and criminal behavior, the most prominent among these is known as evolutionary psychology. Now, what is the meaning of evolutionary psychology? Evolutionary psychology can be simply defined as the application of the principles and knowledge of evolutionary biology to psychological theory and research. One central assumption of evolutionary approaches to understanding crime is the idea that criminal behavior is the outcome of evolved psychological mechanisms. In many instances, what we consider criminal behavior today has been the result because of evolution in the past. The ideas of evolutionary psychologists have been subject to intense scrutiny, and evolutionary approaches to understanding human behavior are often described as untestable, unfalsifiable, and ideologically unsound. There are some key conceptual and methodological issues that have yet to be resolved by evolutionary psychologists. The first concerns identification of adaptations. Adaptations are based on natural selection, and even though it might seem very easy to notice an adaptation, in reality it is not. Sometimes evolutionary psychologists are a bit too ready to claim that something is an adaptation. An important issue that is yet to be fully resolved by evolutionary psychologists is the way that culture is incorporated into their explanations. Transmitted culture is very important for understanding human and criminal behavior because it is powerfully shaped by our beliefs, values, attitudes, and traditions. Transmitted culture, although recognized by evolutionary psychologists, has so far played a very limited role. Evaluation. Although many remain skeptical of the value of evolutionary approaches to understanding criminal behavior, given that humans are a product of evolutionary history, it would seem strange not to include it. Evolutionary approaches can meaningfully contribute to the understanding of many different types of criminal behavior. The evolutionary approaches provide the ultimate or distilled explanation for understanding criminal behavior and therefore should be viewed as complementary rather than competing explanations for crime. Evolutionary explanations are most salient in explaining why humans may be prone to engage in aggressive and violent behaviors under certain circumstances. They also explain why there are substantial age and gender differences in criminal offending. Next we go to is social, structural, and cultural approaches. Mainstream criminological approaches draw heavily on the social structural factors in accounting for crime. The idea of social structure refers to the way society is organized. It includes the prevailing economic, political, and legal scenario. Culture is used to refer to the shared patterns of beliefs, values, norms, and practices that define the social and ethnic groups. Key theoretical approaches. There are three important theoretical traditions in criminology: strain theories, control theories, and sub-labeling theories. Strain theories. When an individual is deprived of opportunity to achieve a goal because of poverty, deprivation, or discrimination, those people tend to experience strain and they resort to illegal activities in order to obtain the goals that were otherwise denied. According to Agnew's general strain theory, strains that might lead to crime include not only strains that arise from the failure to achieve status and monetary success, but also strains that arise due to the loss of positively valued relations and experiences, strains that occur due to the experience of abuse as well as victimization. Why do strains result in criminal behavior? According to the general strain theory, strains lead to the experience of negative emotions such as anger and frustration, and this makes an individual engage in crime in order to alleviate these negative emotional states. Control theories. Two main forms of control dominate literature: social control and self control. For social control theorists, crime is more likely to occur when the social bonds that attach an individual to the society are weak or are broken. Social control theories locate the source of control in the relationship between the individual and the community. Self control, in contrast, use internal psychological characteristic that can explain why some individuals are more prone to crime as compared to others. Labeling and sub-labeling theories. A third major tradition in criminology theory focuses on how criminal and antisocial behaviors arise through the way that individuals are defined relative to others in mainstream society. Labeling theorists are interested not only in making a specific individual as deviant, rather they are interested in wider labeling of particular social and cultural groups. Subculture theories are also interested in the way subcultures with specific values, norms, and practices emerge in response to a particular social environment. Evaluation. All social, structural, and cultural theories of crime imply the existence of a human agent who possesses certain psychological characteristics that make crime more prone. Social, structural, and cultural theories of crime are also more salient in explaining the geographical and historical reasons of crime. Thank you.